Travel of any type, but especially cruising, can be a little overwhelming when you have sensory needs. So today, I just want to take a brief moment to talk about all the things that I do to offset mine. Let's get started. Hi, AJ here with Byte Size Cruises. If you have watched the other channel for a long time or been on any of the live streams or seen really any of the videos I'm in, it has come up at least once about sensory issues and me traveling. In particular, I have a lot of food sensory issues where it comes to the texture of food, but I also have a lot of other sensory issues in general, and I just wanted to talk about my experience traveling with them and what I do to kind of mitigate that. So, just some background, I have ADHD. I have a son who is diagnosed with both ADHD and autism, and he and I share a lot of sensory issues together, so I not only have some experience with mitigating it for myself, but for him as well. And these are kind of some of the tools and tricks that I use for having a nice, fun experience when I'm on the cruises. So, one of the big things that I do is I make sure to research and plan, and that can look like watching videos like these, or looking into forums and other parent groups for my son about things that people have done to help offset these issues that can make traveling hard. There is nothing worse than being on a cruise and everything is too loud and too bright and smells too much, and you just shut down and end up spending it in your room because that's the only safe place to be. Now, thankfully, in the modern era, we do have that almost all of the cruise lines, if not all the cruise lines, do have sensory packs available. So if you find that your kid is fine 90% of the time and you don't travel with those items, but you find yourself needing them, you can always go to the kids club or guest services and ask for a sensory pack that will help your child or yourself be able to handle everything. But a lot of this stuff, you kind of want to personalize it to you. So I'm going to go through each of the 5 senses and kind of what I do to mitigate it. So my big one is food. So this one is a little tricky because sometimes food is sneaky and it gets in there. And basically, I look at all the restaurants ahead of time. I try to research the menus and plan through what I'm going to get. I will look up what menu items that aren't in English, what the words mean. This happens a lot at French restaurants, and try to avoid anything that I know is going to trigger me. So for me, I can't do gelatins, and it's really hard to describe, but I do try to know what the flavors are going in, because sometimes the flavor doesn't match the texture of the food, and that can get to me. I don't know how to explain that experience to someone who doesn't experience it, but it is interesting to try and kind of work around that. So it is a lot of research in that area, and then just avoiding and sticking to saying no to the stuff that I don't want. A lot of times servers can be like, oh, you have to try this. A great example of this is Wonderland on Royal Caribbean's Oasis ships, where the servers come over and they're like, you have to try this, you have to try this. And sometimes it's just a no, I do not have to try it because I don't want to get embarrassed at the table. And I've learned that the more I've cruised, the more I've just had to advocate for myself and say, no, thank you, I will not eat that. And then if you say, I don't want to waste food, I won't eat it, I don't like it, sometimes you have to say it a couple times, but they do come through. And that's really all you can do as far as the food texture goes. Thankfully, there are so many food options on ships that even when we have gone to specialty dining and I have had sensory issues with most of the things on the plate, I can always go up to the buffet and find something safe. So there are going to be ways to get safe foods. And even if it is ordering room service almost always has, the classic safety items of chicken nuggets, French fries, cheeseburgers, hamburgers, hot dogs. Most of the ships don't have peanut butter and jelly because of peanut allergies, but MSC does. So keep that in mind. Next up is smell. So for me, I have a very strong sense of smell, and I end up usually wearing something that I can easily, discreetly kind of pull up around my nose. That is one that it's hard to avoid while still being polite unless you're willing to wear a mask. If you have an extremely, extremely sensitive nose, I do recommend wearing a mask on the ships. Even if you are immune compromised or have any concern about illness, it is a good idea to wear a mask, but that mask actually sometimes helps a lot, and I do carry one just in case. My sense of smell does get overwhelmed. It can be a lifesaver, especially because I will sometimes put an essential oil I know I don't have a reaction to on the inside. I do understand, though, that some people do not have that luxury when it comes to smells. So an N95 mask is going to keep most of the smells out. Do highly recommend investing in one that you find comfortable. The other things there, and this is going to be a common thread for most of these items, avoid the busy places. I take the stairs. I try to avoid the buffet during crazy times. And I do everything in my power to avoid the crowds. The one place you can't really avoid it is the theater. If you get there early enough, you do have the option of kind of surrounding yourself with your group, which is one way to go, or sitting on the end so that you can minimize the amount of sides you have for people who are wearing too much perfume to sit next to you. So that's my suggestion there. Next up, bright lights. So there are a lot of bright lights on a cruise ship, and then there are places that are not nearly lit enough. So for bright lights, I do keep sunglasses in my the bag that I carry around the ship with me. You will see so bright lights are not something that typically get to me unless I am also experiencing a migraine. So it's not one that I worry about as much as the others, but for me, having the sunglasses on me is handy. The other thing that I do is, even though I sleep in a dark room, I bring an eye mask. This one's a little beat up, but I do carry an eye mask even though the room does get pretty dark. The security of feeling it on my face, because I wear it at home, really helps me a lot. And then also, it just sometimes in the middle of the day, I don't necessarily want to be in darkness. I just want to cover my eyes and have that quiet moment. So I do carry this for that purpose, especially if I'm going to be sharing a room. This is a lifesaver. So then everyone's favorite is touch. So this is a big one because the way that I cruise, it's usually with people where I don't have to worry about being touched by the people I'm with, but you are in crowds and you are around people. And sometimes it gets very overwhelming, the press of people around you. So there are a few things that I do for that. One is I will typically just avoid the places that are busy, but then I also make sure that I have fidget items with me so that I can have an outlet for that feeling of having been brushed by too much. So for me, what I carry is my crochet items. So I almost always have at least one skein of yarn and my hooks, this is my travel set, with me so that I have something to fidget with, which helps to get out some of that nervous energy that builds up from being in the crowds, even if they're not touching me. As I get overstimulated, I find myself wanting to move, and I kind of have a flight response. And so the fidgeting or the crocheting helps me to stay put. I also do get understimulated because I do have ADHD, and so sometimes if I'm sitting there not doing much of anything, I'll start to fall asleep really easily, and the crochet helps with that. So as I'm talking to people, we're hanging out somewhere, waiting for a show to start, I just start crocheting, and that helps me stay awake. I don't really know where to put this one. I guess it goes in with touch, but the one thing that I do make sure that I travel with, I normally sleep with a weighted blanket at home, and as you can imagine, putting a 25-pound blanket in your suitcase is not the best when you are hauling your suitcase up and down public transit or on an airplane. So I travel with sleep sacks. So I have two here. One is mine and one is my son's. So this is mine. I call it my sausage wrapping because it is like just a sack. It's made of a very stretchy material. It is breathable. And this really helps me kind of get that feeling that I normally get from the weighted blanket. And then my son uses this at home as well as in travel, and his is more of a don't know how well you can see that. His is more of a rectangle. Also very stretchy. There's a little more resistance on his, and he can get buttoned right into this. So this helps with that feeling of being hugged, which I often don't get when I'm on the cruises with the team or by myself. But it can also help just that security feeling as you're going to sleep, mimicking that weighted blanket. It does help me kind of release that stress after the day, pairs well with my eye mask, and just helps to kind of reset that clock for me. All right, and then sound. So I am not great with loud noises. I don't like being in loud spaces. I get headaches really easily from it. So I travel with a couple things. Now, both me and my son travel with noise canceling headphones. On the cruises, these are a little hard for me to use with what I'm doing, but my son wears them all the time. They really do help him. And we take them everywhere with us at home too for activities. They were a godsend in Disney World for him as he just got really overwhelmed really quickly. The other thing I travel with is loops. So these are earplugs. They're not Bluetooth or anything else. They just go in your ear. You can see they sit pretty low profile, so they're not real obvious. And they don't completely block sound, but what these are really useful for is being in the shows where they get really loud. I still want to be able to hear the singing and everything that's going on, but I don't want to mess up my hearing, or I just, like I said earlier, get really overwhelmed with the loud sound. So I'll just put these in. They're just like going to a concert where you want to have ear protection. So these are even good even if you don't have sensory issues, just to protect your hearing, especially because some of the venues on ships are smaller but still have really loud sound. So I use these almost daily on board the ships, if not daily on board the ships. And they're really small, so even places where the noise canceling headphones are not usable, these are. The other thing is back to sleeping. I am a fairly light sleeper, and the ships are pretty loud at night between people moving down the hallway and the sounds of the ship itself. So I also travel with sleep headphones. These are blue because my hair has turned them blue. So these are just, there's little flat speakers sewn into a headband. And these are great for helping to block out some of that ship noise, put on familiar stories for me, or I know some people use white noise that they're familiar with to help them fall asleep, blocks out people running up and down the hallway, will not quite block out the sound of a tender ship being lowered, I know from being on the Enchanted Princess, but they are pretty good for that. And yeah, some other things that have just come up is as far as sunscreen alternatives go, because both my husband and my son have problems with the feeling of lotion. So we are big fans of the UV arm sleeves that cover your arms instead of wearing sunscreen. We all have the rash guard swim shirts that are long and do that instead of wearing sunscreen on our arms. Big hats that helps with keeping the sun off, as well as not needing as much sunscreen. You should still put sunscreen on your face, but it's better than nothing if you have a little one or you can't bring yourself to putting that on. And yeah, that is my kit. Now, everyone with sensory issues is different, and I recognize this, and I know that your kit is not going to be the same. These are just some things, some ideas of what I do to mitigate the issues that I have. But I would love for you to let me know in the comments below what your favorite travel sensory items are to keep you regulated and enjoying your vacation. I would love to do a follow-up video later sharing some of the viewers' ideas of things that you can carry to help make your time more enjoyable. And yeah, if you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments below. I hope you found this video useful and insightful, even if you yourself do not have sensory issues. If you are planning a vacation for someone who does, I hope that this gives you some ideas of things that you can recommend to them or even have for them in case that they don't know, so that you can help them have a vacation that they might not have been able to take before because of these things. All right, if you found this video helpful, I would ask that you please like and subscribe. As we grow this channel, it really does help get us out to other people who would enjoy this community. And as always, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.